I'm the one over here geeking out with the NBA Jam.
Double NBA Jam.
I see the NBA Jam.
Man, like I don't know, like this one's so funny for me because of course now like in this business, all the people I deal with and the coaches I talk to and all that kind of stuff, and then like this one for me, I mean this is relevant to like my like growing up, the which kind of leads into like what the plan was today. So we're super conversational with these things. We do lots of different topics. We've done everything from human trafficking to being a black coach in the NCAA. We did that with Penny Collins and Tubby Smith. We did human trafficking because I go to Africa a lot and have dealt with some wild shit. And so we did that and just like some really just fun stuff too. We did Brian Scalabrine last week, which was just kind of a cool one and whatever. So the plan for this one was, we were going to title this episode Icon. And, you just have such an interesting, amazing, diverse career as not only as a player and as a coach, but as a pop culture icon. And that's just like so rare for people to kind of get to hear from somebody in that position and hear like what that's all about and like the stories that go with that. And so, yeah, that was kind of our plan with this one. We've got a bunch of stuff we'll run through and just ask questions, whatever you want to talk about, stories you want to tell, whatever is totally cool. We usually go about an hour. But also we did want to say, because it just wouldn't be right if we didn't bring it up. If there's anything you want to talk about before we really dive into the other stuff about everything else that's going on, that's totally cool. We'll do that. If you don't want to and save that for another time, that's totally cool too. So up to you what you're thinking there. So we're going to do an episode tomorrow with Lavelle Moten, just exclusively on racism in America. We're not even going to talk about hoops. So
he did a great job on his interview with that. Just basically just talking about coaches around the country, especially Power 5 coaches that are benefiting from African American kids who aren't saying anything when these tragedies happen. And it's important, for all of us to know that we're all in this together. It is. And I was proud of Lavelle for speaking up and saying that because, in America where it's, right of speech is not always like that. It's all, you could get blackballed. You could get somebody saying, why did he say that? But he came from the heart and everybody kind of understood where he was coming from.
From the Live Period podcast, this is the Player Series, Episode 6, Penny Hardaway.
All right, guys, welcome back to the next episode of the Live Period, the Player Series, and this one is really, really cool. This episode is something I've been excited about for a long time, and I'm kind of geeking out over here. For those of you that don't see any video clips from this, I've got the NBA Jam Penny Hardaway background. I've got the NBA Jam Penny Hardaway T-shirt going. And yeah, I'm kind of having like my fanboy geek out moment here. So this is big time. So I present to you the head coach of the Memphis Tigers, Penny Hardaway. We appreciate you coming on, man.
No, I appreciate you guys. Thanks.
So we're gonna dive in like we do with everybody on the Player Series here. This is we want to talk about your career. We want to talk about just a bunch of cool shit and just kind of use this as a time for you to tell stories. Use this as a time for you to say things that you think players and coaches should hear. But you've had such a unique, diverse, amazing career to this point, and I know it's only going to continue with the work that you're doing now. And so let's just take it back to the beginning. And a lot of people understand Penny, the coach. They either experienced Penny, the player, watching and all that. But I think there's probably a lot of people that haven't heard your story about how you got to where you are now. And so why don't you just take us back to growing up and getting into basketball and what did that look like for you?
We're going all the way back to when I was small.
We're going back to the way back, man. Like
Oh.
what made Penny?
Well, I think what made me who I am today is my grandmother through some adverse situations. I was born with, my father wasn't there. My mother had me. My father left when he found out that my mother was pregnant. And then when I was about 5 years old, my mom wanted to pursue a singing career and wanted to take me around the country traveling. But her mother, who was my grandmother, she didn't want her to travel with me. So she was like, okay, you can travel, but you have to leave Anfernee. You can't let him, he's not going to grow up being a kid that's on the road. You're in a nightclub. You got to get different people to keep him. So I'll keep him. So that's where it all started for me right there. Not up until then, because my grandmother was a very strong woman. She was a person that had so much pride, and she owned her own house. She paid her bills on time. She was someone, if she had to get credit, she made sure she paid. She was just so uniform on what she did. She just was not, she was a no-nonsense person when it came to everything. She was about business. So when I moved in with her, it went from being a happy-go-lucky house with my mom. I was staying in an apartment, a 2-bedroom apartment with my mom, my aunt's 5 children, and me. So it was all of us in a 2-bedroom apartment. And then when my mom moved, I moved in with my grandmother, and I knew right then the difference in the 2 homes, the strict housing of having to get up, having to do chores, having to, anything that you do unnecessarily, being disciplined for it. And it was almost like she was trying to show me that I'm going to put the pressure on you to do right, because when you get older and I'm no longer here, you will be able to survive. And I think that's where it all started for me. I think that when I got about 10 years old, I started playing basketball. Obviously, I had a basketball in my hands in my front yard, but then I moved out into the neighborhood when I got about 10. I started figuring out about a year later that I had some talent, just from just dribbling the basketball all day, just trying to move people, trick people, shift people out of the way so that I can get to where I wanted to go to. And I guess God just gave me that ability early. And I got blessed with some older guys that were maybe 18 years old. They would choose a player in our neighborhood to represent and to coach. So this one guy coached me against the other guys in the neighborhood, and he was a really good basketball player. And he was just kind of telling me, that I was pretty good, and that if I just kept it going, that I could be better. And he would put me up against all the top guys in the neighborhood, and I would beat them in one-on-one games. And then it just started there and just flowed, man. And then when I got into junior high, I really hadn't grown any. I was probably 5'11" in the 7th grade, 8th grade. And I tried out for the junior high team, and I got cut. I know everybody has that story, but I got cut because I wasn't tall enough. The coach that we had, he wanted length. There were a lot of guys that were 6'3", 6'4". They made the team, and I was the manager of that team that year. And I kept the books. 7th grade. I'm sorry, 7th grade. So 8th grade, I come back. I grew to probably 6'1.5", 6'2". Made the team, and I was the leading scorer, best player. Next year, 9th grade, I played junior varsity, split with high school varsity, and I was a star of the junior varsity team, averaging 30 points a game, and I was getting maybe 8 minutes a game on varsity. And then one of our senior players got ineligible academically, and our coach sat all of us in the bleachers, and he said, whoever, his name is David Wolf. David Wolf is ineligible, and we don't have a starting 2 guard. Whoever wants to start, step out here on the court and you'll start. I guess everybody thought he was joking, but I stepped out on the court. I was like, I'm ready. And when I stepped out on the court, he was like, okay, this is our starting lineup. And I never looked back since. But I think it's because of my grandmother's hard work. She worked as a maid and a nanny for a family. And then she was a chef and cook in our school system. And she worked 2 jobs. And I think that work ethic in her kind of drove me, and then the discipline that she put in me. So when I got cut, it just only made me mad, and it made me work harder. And because I knew I was good enough, and became the best player 8th grade, started varsity the 2nd semester of my 9th grade year, averaged about 14 a game for the rest of the season. And then from that point on, it went 25 a game 10th grade, 33 a game 11th grade, 38 a game 11th grade. And it just kept going up from there. And I think it was just being driven by the guys in my neighborhood, I was blessed to have a basketball neighborhood. We had a lot of really good basketball players because the area high school or the high school that was in my neighborhood, they were winning state championships, and their guys were going to Division I colleges. So when you go to the park, you were really playing against really good players. So I had to earn my way on the court there. I had to earn my way into basketball in junior varsity. I had to earn my way in the high school, but I was already really kind of been pushed by my grandmother enough to know that I had to fight for everything that I wanted. And that's what happened. That's what really just made me who I was. And from that point on, once I hit the stride, 10th, 11th grade of being really good, I just knew then that I was on my path to where I actually eventually went to, and that was to the NBA.
So when you're in high school there and you make that varsity team and, you know, that rise is just meteoric, you know, to becoming a parade All-American or national. Yeah.
Player of the year, my senior year. Yeah, for sure.
When did it, you know, though, like, you know, everybody that we've talked about or talked to on this show that's been in the NBA, at some point they just knew. They're like, you know what, I got it. Like, when did that click for you that, like, hey, this is.
I knew 12, 13 years old because of beating all the guys in the neighborhood. And it wasn't a struggle, not to brag, but it was just really, I was smart. I was quick enough. I understood angles. It's like everything that you got to know. It was like I had an upper hand, and I studied the guys that I played against. Back then, I was like a student of the game and understanding, okay, this guy likes to do this. I'm going to take that away. So I was doing that before I even got taught that because I wanted to win. I was going to do whatever it took to win. So his weaknesses, I got to make him play to his weaknesses, and I had to play to my strengths. So I learned that at 12, 13 years old.
I think that's such an important point for anybody that's out there listening, that's a player, is, you know, guys will go and they'll get up all the shots, right? And they'll go and they'll work on their weak hand and they'll do all that sort of thing, which you have to do. But that comment there about studying the other guys, like so many guys watch film without purpose, you know, and they're watching maybe for what the team is doing as opposed to the individual or something. And you know, the best guys to ever play this game all talk about studying an individual and then the next individual and the next individual so that they know that individual's game better than anybody else. Yeah. And that's, you know, it's just so important in being able to take advantage there. So
if I can just add to that.
Yeah.
Older, some high school coaches are very detailed. That's when you really start understanding maybe AAU, the more advanced AAU teams, but high school, some coaches, they do scouting reports. But if you let the coach do the scouting report and then he teaches you and you don't grasp it and you don't go do some extra work on your own, it will never really register to you that what's really going on. The guys have to receive it from the coach and then they have to go home and study it themselves. That's the only way it's going to work. And most kids really don't want to do that. They just want to play and they don't really want to understand what's going on in the game.
Petty, the other day, doing workouts, I had two young kids in, and we were going a little one-on-one at the end. I'm a big development guy, just like you and Cody and your staff are. And it was a game point. And I usually try to, I'm a big believer in student of the game and watch, learn. And I told the kid, I said, hey, I need you to go in and out, hard dribble left, step side back for a three. And he's like, what? I said, just do it. Because I was obviously watching the kid on defense, and I kept telling him, hey, do this, and he wasn't doing it. I was like, okay, I'm going to make him pay. So the kid does it, makes a three and wins. And he looks at me, he's like, how did you know that? I said, I've been watching him. I keep telling him this about his footwork. And he's like, damn. I was like, dude, that's basketball. That's the next level stuff that you have to understand. And the only way you get it is by learning, studying, and all that kind of stuff. And it's just so funny because I know you guys deal with that at Memphis as well with all the young guys you bring in, all the 5 stars and 4 stars. That's the next step that so many kids don't understand until usually it's too late.
Yeah, you know what's so funny is that we can see when we send video to the kids, we can see who actually looks at it, and they don't know that. They don't know that we can watch. We have this thing on our on the. All
just
the
gave away your secret.
They do now.
They didn't know that initially, but now they do.
Yeah, of course.
But some of them are watching film, and I go, "Who's watching film?" Guys will raise their hand. I'm going. You guys aren't watching film because that's what I'm asking you. Because you can't be watching film if you're allowing this to happen. And it's like you have to study your opponent to the point to where you understand what he wants to do at all times, and you're engaged in pushing him towards those weaknesses at all times during the game. The one time you make that one mistake could be the time that he gets one shot off and gets hot, and then all of a sudden you're in trouble, or that's the game winner.
Yeah.
And I'm never going to give a guy his bread and butter for a game winner. That's not going to happen.
Yep. Absolutely. Let's talk about recruitment a little bit. When you decided to stay home, but what I guess is as you're going through that process, where now you're one of the most sought after recruits in the whole country, and deciding to stay home, like what went into, I guess, that thought process, and what was recruiting like for you?
I think that what went into my decision was that I fell in love in the mid to late 80s with the University of Memphis State at the time. Keith Lee, Andre Turner, William Bedford. Those were great teams from like 82 to like 87. Those teams were unreal. And that was kind of like a pivotal point for me, because I kind of just said, I want to go to Memphis. I was so in love with hometown guys going to Memphis and doing really well. They were going to Final Fours. They were going to Sweet 16. They were winning a lot. They had a very talented team, and I was like, I want to play. So it was almost like I didn't have to get recruited to go to the University of Memphis or Memphis State at the time. Arkansas came in really strong because they had ties to Memphis with Todd Day, Corey Beck. Corey Beck ended up winning the national championship with Corliss Williamson and those guys in Arkansas, I think in '96 against Duke. And then Temple came in, Coach Chaney came in, because they had Mark Macon and they were, really good at that time. UNLV came in, and you know about those 90s teams. Those dudes were dope. Larry Johnson and Stacey Augmon and all those guys. And then Georgia Tech, Kenny Anderson, Dennis Smith, and those guys. It's just those were the teams that I was really fans of. I was actually my favorite player in college at that time was Steve Smith. When he was at Michigan State. So I was a Michigan State fan, even though they didn't really recruit me because they felt like I was going to stay home. But the recruitment went very quickly in Georgetown. Coach Tomlin simply said this: "Don't waste my time. I don't want to waste your time. Let me know if you're going to go to Memphis." And I was like, "Coach, I think I'm going to Memphis." He's like, "I respect that." And then that was it for him. Coach Chaney stayed a little longer. When I found out that they had 6 a.m. practices, they kind of cut them out at that time. I love Coach Chaney, though. Practices? Okay. All right, Coach. Thank you.
Good talk, Coach. Good talk.
Arkansas hung in there the longest because Todd Day was on the team, Memphis guy. I mean, great player. And they were really wearing on me. Todd was, and eventually the hometown love just overtook everything. So it was really Memphis all along, but Arkansas kind of snuck in there just a little bit with Todd. Todd Day did a great job.
That's amazing. So you stay home, you go to Memphis, and then what happened?
Went to Memphis my freshman year. Obviously, I'm all over the place. By this time, my mother moves back. My mother moved back when I was going into 10th grade, and I went from the disciplined home to a situation where I could do whatever I wanted to do. And I lost focus and didn't really take the ACT serious and didn't pass the ACT. It wasn't that I couldn't do it. I just really didn't take it seriously, and I had to sit out my freshman year. Freshman year, I'm sitting out. I get shot in the foot, thought that my career was over, and got robbed in my old neighborhood. And then from there, started to understand that, what things were really all about. Like educationally, I made the dean's list. My foot got well, and then I went on and played 2 years in a row at Memphis. Was player of the year both years in the conference, and was first team All-American my junior year. And then I got drafted by the Magic, Golden State, and then traded to the Magic.
So back to that freshman year when you're sitting out and you get shot, which, I didn't know until I started preparing for the show and kind of doing our homework there and seeing that turning point, I think for you, even academically, right? Like you ended up being on the dean's list or something, right? By the time you were done in Memphis there. Maybe talk a little bit about that time when you were sitting out and kind of, I guess, what you were thinking about, what you were seeing, and the choices that I think you had to make then. That there's like, which way am I going to go with this? Am I going to fight this and be angry about it and go this way, or am I going to, head that way?
Yeah, I came from a neighborhood where it was sports or games. And sometimes you can kind of get lost in that situation. And for me, my senior year, I kind of got lost. But sitting out my freshman year, I understood that I had an opportunity to do something special for me and my family, and I had to hit a crossroads where hey, you're going to go left or you're going to go right. I went right. I had a great academic advisor. Her name was Miss Jenna Pickens. She just kind of told me to kind of take a deep breath, understand what I wanted, lock in on the education side, and just basically just stay in the gym, stay away from everything back in my neighborhood, which my neighborhood was 10 minutes away from campus, 15 minutes away from campus. So it was like right there and a lot of distractions. So what I did was I locked in. I really just went to the gym. I went to class, and I played in the intramural league. I averaged like 45, 50 points a game and averaged about 10, 12 points a game. You can imagine our intramural games. We had like 500 people at our intramural games. We're out there playing against regular students. And I had another teammate who was sitting out who was a Prop 48, who was the second leading scorer in the city behind me. He averaged 30. I averaged 38, and he and I were on the same team playing against
Super fair.
all of these students. It just wasn't fair, but we had a ball though because everybody was at the game.
That's
so
fantastic. I do want to bring up so that we don't miss it. Everybody knows you left after your junior year. You're drafted 3rd overall in the NBA, but you went back and got that degree 10 years later, right?
Yeah.
So, let's just touch on it right now. So when we'll go back to those 10 years, but when you decide to go back, like, was that a difficult decision? Was that something that felt overwhelming, I guess, when you look and you think, geez, I got to go back and, class, and I got to, all the things you have going on in your life. I mean, you're at the top of your profession, and now, like, you're going back to be a student.
Yeah, I think that the timing was perfect. Miss Pickens, Jenna Pickens again, called me and was like, it's time for you to go ahead and finish up. It'd be great. And some other academic advisors that were involved with the situation. And I said, you know what, let's do it. Took on the task of online courses, and man, it went like clockwork though. I had to make the time, but I knew what the end result would be because I'm finishing what I started. And even though it was 10 years later, I wanted that degree and I got it. So I just locked in and had some great people helping me with the process of understanding which courses I had to pick, and it kept me on pace and on the right page. And in 2003, I ended up graduating. So that was a great moment for me.
That's phenomenal.
Penny, if you can touch on this, because I think it's all about life experiences and being able to relate to players, especially in this generation where there's so many distractions in social media. I mean, even somebody with your iconic status, is that something you can hold in your pocket or have on the sheet of paper? Like, guys, yeah, I did all this, but like I also went back and got my degree. Like, I'm not blowing smoke when I'm saying go to class. Like, is that something you use on a daily basis, a weekly basis? Because that's something that hey, I did all these things and look, oh yeah, Thomas, you did do that. Is that the same for you, even though you're Penny Hardaway?
Because you have to try to motivate the kids any way that you can, and then it's almost like you have to. It's a constant talk every day, and it has to be consistent about bettering your craft in basketball, sharpening your mind in basketball, but also doing your work so you can get a degree, because basketball won't last forever. And when you can say that I have my degree, I went to the NBA, and then I went back 10 years later, and the kids can identify with it, like, wow, our coach did that. So if he can do it, we can do it, for sure.
That's cool.
So before we get to the draft in the NBA, I got to back up just a little bit to an urban legend. Is that the right word, Nick? Is that
seems fair?
Is that what we got here? So there's two camps to this story, and I'll let you tell the story for the people that don't know, but the Dream Team story. When why don't you just go ahead and tell that story, and come on, hear what happened.
Yeah, initially being called by USA Basketball to say that I was going to be a part of a small select team of guys was, man, it was phenomenal. Just to even be selected, and to go to this. We went to La Jolla, California, and had an opportunity this select team to play against the original Dream Team. And of course, we're all fans of everybody that's on the Dream Team. I mean, it's a who's who, as you know. And
this is when they were preparing to go to the Olympics? This was when they were preparing? Okay.
So they wanted some guys to come in and beat up on pretty badly, but just had enough skill to give them a go. That can kind of give them the same type of game that maybe The other countries would, maybe better. Obviously, they didn't know that we were going to play as well as we did. Me, Chris Webber, Bobby Hurley, Rodney Rogers, Grant Hill, Allen Houston, Eric Montrose, Jamal Mashburn. We had a really good group.
Say, I think I've heard of a few of those guys. Jeez Louise.
And we were all young, and we were all ready for the moment. I mean, no one was scared. Everybody was like, yo, we have got to go out here and show these guys that we can play. We wanted their approval. More so than anything, we wanted to beat them, but we also wanted their approval. Like, all right, this guy gets my blessing as a good player, or he's a good player, or whatever. So the very first scrimmage we have, I'm guarding Magic. I'm guarding John Stockton. I'm going. Every time I'm guarding Magic Johnson right now. I'm guarding John Stockton right now. Come on, man. How are you guarding John Stockton and Magic Johnson right now? And I just got screened by Karl Malone. I just got screened by Hakeem Olajuwon or Charles Barkley or David Robinson. I'm like, this is – but I never lost a moment of when I was competing to compete. And we ended up, like, really beating them. Like I'm talking about, we beat them pretty bad. They tried to turn it on, and we were just going. And it just didn't stop, and we beat them up pretty bad. So the next day, they played way more physical. The refs didn't call as many fouls, and it wasn't a joke anymore. They had to show us that they were the big dogs, and they did. They beat us up pretty badly, but that first day we shocked the world. And we were so hyped and so excited, like, man, we just beat the dream team. Nobody's going to come 60 points to them, and we did a great job, though. It was a fun experience, fun week. Hung out with the guys. All of the guys were great. And the experience, man, you can only imagine how great that was.
Penny, I mean, do you think that those moments playing against those guys, the guys that are your icons, your heroes, do you think that kind of set the trajectory for the rest of your career? Did that shape something for you?
It definitely set a higher trajectory for me, because when I got done with that week or the time that we were in La Jolla and I went back home, I basically turned into a monster. Every gym I went to was way worse on everybody. Like, I was possessed. Literally, like, every gym that I went to, it was total domination. I was already dominating, but it got to a point where my confidence went through the roof. And it was a different level when I got back. But it did take the trajectory from being here to way higher. Like, I've been in the presence of greatness, and I understand how it works. I looked at their work ethic. I saw how they worked in their communication and how they thought the game. We talked to them off the court. That was enough for me.
Wow.
Is there anybody from that dream team? Okay, there's Michael Jordan. Maybe it is Michael. Is there anybody that you walked away from there going, like, I did not know that dude could do this, or I'm gonna like take away this from this player that maybe nobody knows about? Is there anybody that?
We were just trying to not get embarrassed and really just get approval. I kind of figured Magic, when you pressured him a lot, he was going to turn his back to you. Stockton was very crafty, so I kind of gave him space. Because I was like, okay, he's crafty enough that if I get too close, he'll beat me. So I was really thinking the game, but not to a point to where I do when I played against, my guys. But I didn't dare say, if I take Stockton's left hand away, he's not going to be able to do it. This is John Stockton. He was still going to be able to get it done. So I'm like, all right, just use your length and make it hard on him. But no, I didn't leave there saying I took this away or I took that away. It was basically just being smart enough to understand what they were trying to do to me and not allow it.
Was that the first time that you'd really spent a lot of time around players of that level, like playing pickup and things like that? I mean, was that kind of that first moment for you where you go, oh, geez, like these guys are?
Yeah, I had never been
different
in a gym like that in my life. I played in the Olympic Festival with a lot of the best college players around the country. It was in Minnesota, but nothing on the level of Dream Team 1 guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I think people don't forget, but maybe can't quite picture like how big Magic Johnson is. Like, running into a screen from Karl Malone has to be about like getting hit by a truck.
Yes.
Like,
I was a good 175, 180 soaking wet at 6'7". I was a stick. So every time I hit the screen, I was like, oh my God. Started doing the started the scoop up.
Nick, I think before we get into the NBA and some of the pop culture stuff that I'm probably a little too jacked up to talk about, Let's hit some trivia, shall we?
Let's do it. Question number 1, Penny, you will go first. As a senior at Treadwell High School, Penny was the Parade Magazine National High School Player of the Year, averaging an astonishing 36.6 points, 10.1 rebounds, 6.2 assists, 3.9 steals, and 2.8 blocks per game. How many total points did he accumulate in his high school career? Penny, you're up first.
Oh my God. I don't know that. I never found out how many points I ended up with. I guess I'm not into that, because I don't know how many points I accumulated overall.
Give us a guess.
I would say 20, I'll give it 20, 2,400, 2,500.
Okay, we'll go with 2,500. Thomas.
So 2,500 for him. I'm gonna go with. I'm not gonna do the Price is Right stuff. I'm gonna say 3,225.
Okay.
I want it known that I believe in Penny more than Penny believes in himself here. So I'm gonna go with 3,318.
I wanted to be a little modest.
Thomas is the winner. The total was 3,039.
Wow.
3,039.
3,039.
How did you forget that you were a 3,000 point scorer? Did nobody hand you a
Didn't
little
care.
plaque or nothing?
I guess it didn't matter. I guess I know now. You went deep. That's deep.
Oh, yeah. I don't mess around, Penny.
Penny's out here giving excuses like, oh, I'm just not doing that. Like,
So then now me with a second question. Oh, this is only for me.
Here's the bonus question only for Thomas. The bonus question is how many players have been drafted into the NBA after playing at Treadwell High School?
How many players have been drafted?
Yeah, you don't get to answer this one, though.
This is just for
This is
just for me.
Thomas.
from Treadwell High School.
I'm gonna go with 2.
The correct answer is 6. And 5 of them played at Memphis. Okay, so far, Thomas has 1. You guys both have 0. Here we go. Question number 2. In 1994, Penny starred in the classic sports drama Blue Chips alongside Nick Nolte and Shaquille O'Neal. How much did the film gross at the box office?
Ooh.
And Thomas, you will go first. Then Brandon, then Penny.
So this is this is 1994, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Gross at the box office. I'm gonna go with
Blue Chips.
49 million.
Brandon?
Boy. $1994. That's like Jurassic Park money. I'm gonna go with 31 million.
And Penny?
I'll say 40.
23 million is the correct answer.
They cheated us. Great. Can we go do-over? Get a do-over?
If you had a do-over now, that thing would be hundreds of millions.
Oh my God. You know how many times I've watched Blue Chips in the last 18 months?
Trivia. I'm over 2 right now.
All right, here we go. The bonus question. The movie features a number of real-life players and coaches. What coach did Nick Nolte shadow for his research?
This is only for Brandon.
This is only for Brandon.
Rick Pitino.
That is incorrect. The answer is Bob Knight.
Oh.
Penny, you got a chance. All right.
Yep.
Third and final question. Brandon, you will go first.
Okay.
Lil Penny represents one of the most iconic campaigns in sports marketing history. In an effort to cash in on nostalgia, Orlando Magic co-founder Pat Williams brought a Lil Penny doll with him to the draft lottery in 2018. What were the Magic odds to land the number 1 overall pick that season?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
15 to 1.
Penny? Actually, hold on real quick before you answer. Brandon, I need your answer in a form of a percent instead of a...
Oh, for Pete's sake.
I'm not doing the math.
8%.
Penny?
I'll say 5%. Oh, 2018? Hold on. I'll go higher. I'm sorry. I'll go higher.
Okay.
Let's say 30%.
Thomas.
I'm going to go with 9 to box Brandon in.
The correct answer is 8.8%. Thomas, you got it.
What the?
Penny, you've been eliminated and are in last place. So Thomas,
Hey,
wow.
you've technically already won.
What's
We'll
that?
give you the
What's
bonus.
that, Penny?
Embarrassing.
Coach, we didn't want to do you like this. I promise.
No, it's okay. Guess what? I learned how many points. I haven't seen this stuff in forever. I learned how many points. I wanted because I was chasing Bobby Bingo Smith, so he was right in the 32 or 3,300, I think, range, or whatever, and I was right there. So
You almost had him.
I almost did.
All right, here's the bonus. The bonus question is, legendary creative outlet Wieden & Kennedy cited what previous character as the inspiration for Lil Penny's boisterous personality?
Chucky doll? I don't know.
That is
Don't think so.
Nope.
Right?
incorrect. What'd you say, Penny?
You said the voice. Repeat that.
Well, not the voice, but what previous character did they use for inspiration? They cited this, that they used for inspiration for the boisterous personality. You want to take a stab at it?
God. And you said what? You said the Chucky doll?
He said the Chucky doll,
Way off.
which is the worst possible answer.
Yeah, that would have been for Dennis Rodman. Geez, what was I doing? Dude, I don't know, man. I don't even want to take a guess. I've been off all day.
The correct answer is Spike Lee's Mars Blackman.
Oh, there we go.
Thomas, you are the winner. Hit the music.
Thomas Villanco is the champion of Penny Hardaway Trivia.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. iTunes ratings and reviews are also extremely helpful. Your support is what helps us move the needle and keep this thing going. We love and appreciate all of you.
Now, back to the show.
Penny, can we jump right into blue chips?
Yep.
Can we talk? How did that go down? Like, did you get a call? Like, what happened? How did blue chips become such a big part of history and you're in it? And tell us about blue chips, how it started, and your thoughts on it all.
Well, Blue Chip started because got a call from the movie company about doing a basketball movie, but they wanted to use real basketball players. They didn't want to use actors. And of course, with me with the baby face, and I looked like, well, I was still just leaving college. They wanted to do real scenes. They didn't want to act anything out. I think the only thing we acted out was the lob to Shaq at the end for me. Everything else was real basketball. They just allowed us to play. So they wanted real basketball players. So obviously I accepted and went out to LA and Indiana where I did my I went to Chicago for my individual part when I was in high school at St. Joe's, and then I went to Indiana to do my Lafayette, to do the basketball scene where we played the game. And then everything else was at Paramount Studios in LA.
Did you have a relationship with Shaq before that?
We played together in the Olympic Festival on the same team, but we didn't really build a big relationship. We just knew each other and respected one another.
So this was after you've declared for the draft, and then they call you and you go film this, but the draft had not happened yet.
It hadn't happened yet.
So did some of this, for those that don't know, there with the draft, when and I'm trying to remember if I remember this right, like you had expressed some interest to the Magic that said, hey, like I'd like to play with Shaq.
Yep.
Like they ended up working you out again or something, right?
Yeah, originally when I was doing the movie, they brought me down to do just a general what they do at the camps now. They do the vertical leap, sprints, all these different testings with the strength and conditioning coach. We really didn't do any basketball. They weren't really as serious about me because they thought they were going to pick Chris Webber. And after I left there, I went back to the movie and we started playing basketball. And every time I played with Shaq, I was giving him the ball every time. I don't even know if I took a shot. I'm just force feeding him because I'm definitely, trying to get him to understand that you need me. You need me. And he went for it. And then the legendary big man coach, Pete Newell, God rest his soul, he told Shaq, man, you need a guard that wants to give you the ball like that. Yeah. And I was definitely there to let Shaq know that this is what will happen if I play with you in the NBA. And it worked. He got me another workout. And they were going to work me out again anyway, but with talent, like their best players. Yeah. They're players that were in town. They gathered those guys together and brought me back down again for me to play.
Wow. I actually read that Shaq stated that to the management that if they didn't get you, his deal was up and he was going to go somewhere else. Is there truth to that?
I hope so. I hope he was telling them, hey, if you guys don't get Penny, I'm going to leave.
Wow.
Because I did a good job of force feeding him and getting him the ball because I understood Shaq was so dominant that I'd still be able to get mine along with giving him the ball every time. Because when he went out of the game, that's when I kind of turned my game up to another level. But when he was in the game, I made sure I fed him.
It's so crazy watching him, like especially back in his Magic stuff. I mean, you watch him with the Lakers and the Heat and things, and he's just bullying dudes. But with the Magic, like that's a different human being. Like,
yeah, it was.
That's something, I mean, like Giannis in a different way, right? Like, just the length and, something that's just so physically dominating because of size and stuff. But like Shaq is freaking huge. And he could run like a deer, which is terrifying.
Crazy. I remember we were in the Olympic Festival and Damon Bailey, who played at Indiana University, took a charge on Shaq right in between the jump, like the free throw line and the half charge circle. And in Minnesota, the court is elevated. Shaq hit him close to the free throw line. He took the charge and he slid all the way out the court. That's a long ways.
I bet he didn't take another charge either.
No.
Penny, I'll go B. When you get drafted, can you, maybe it's a two-part thing. You get drafted. What was that like from where you came from and having your grandma and the way you were raised and the trials and tribulations of getting shot in the foot and all these things that you had, so that, like draft night, and then your first year with the Magic, of all that stuff that's happened to you, how do you approach that first year different than maybe other rookies? Like, can you tell us maybe two parts?
Yeah, I think, getting drafted, draft day was so special because I knew that it was going to happen. And when it did happen, getting to the team, it was just so different because I had just, coming from the neighborhood that I came from, I knew that I had changed my life and my family's life forever. And my grandmother was still living, so I was so excited to be able to give her a different life than what she'd had. And my mom, a different life from what she'd had in my entire family. And coming from a dorm that I slept in a twin bed next to a brick wall, and to be able to go from that to a mansion, to be able to live on a lake, a huge lake in a mansion. I didn't go to sleep the first night I was in my home because I really couldn't believe it. Wow. I could not believe that I had finally made it and that I was here, and I wasn't going to take anything for granted because I didn't want to go back to where I was. So I was like, I have to take full advantage of God blessing me with the opportunity to live out my dream, and I wasn't going to take that lightly. So it was very serious. I might have been more serious than a lot of rookies because most rookies were probably having fun. It was business for me because I wanted to establish myself right away as one of the better players or one of the more promising players, and I knew I had my work cut out for me.
Before we go into the rest of your NBA career here, I have to go back real quick to Blue Chips and ask, who is more scary? Any coach you ever played for yelling at you, or Nick Nolte yelling at you?
Nick Nolte yelling at me. Nick Nolte, he did a great job of getting into character to the point that where he was that character. He never got out of character on even when they said cut, he was still in character.
Wow. Nick Nolte is so good at getting into that character that I don't think Nick Nolte gets into character for that. I think that's just Nick Nolte.
That's just who he is.
Like anytime I've ever heard the name Nick Nolte, any other movie I've seen Nick Nolte in, all I can see is him losing his shit in that locker room.
Yes.
Blue Chips. Yeah. I've probably seen that movie 30 times, and it's just, I don't know. He's terrifying. I get nervous watching it. I get nervous for you watching it.
No, it was a great experience, but he definitely was convincing. You didn't know that you were looking at Nick Nolte when he was all over you in that movie, yelling and screaming at you.
Man.
Should we talk the shoes?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's talk shoes, because what I really want to do, like, your playing career and your the people that you played with and against, and we'll hear a little bit about that and stuff. But like, we definitely want to get to your coaching as well. We want to get to what you're doing now and that thought process, that changeover. So, but before we do that, we would be absolutely remiss if we don't ask you about shoes. So, you wear some dope ass shoes now, and I absolutely love it. And the first pair of let's back up. So when I got into this, like, I was not a hoops guy, right? Like I loved it growing up, watching you. I loved the culture around it. It was difficult for me to watch a lot of games. I lived on base. Family was in the Air Force. We didn't have much access to cable and all that kind of stuff. And but whenever I got the chance to watch you and Shaq and guys like that play, I took advantage of it. So when I was a kid, I mowed lawns for an entire summer to buy a pair of the penny ones. And that was the first pair of basketball shoes I ever bought. And until more recently, where now, like, I buy shoes like those were the only shoes that I wanted. Like, those were the only shoes that I was into. I wasn't into the Jordans. I wasn't into that. I wanted the penny ones. And so I was excited coming into this interview to ask you about that process. Like we never, there's so few people that have their own shoe. Like, we're never going to get to ask anybody about this. Like, when they say, all right, we're going to do the signature shoe with you. Yep. Like, how does all that come together?
Well, Nike sends out a group of people who are on the project of making my shoes. And we get together in a boardroom and we start talking from the simplest things of, what do you like? I like Ferraris. I like fast cars. I like beautiful homes and mansions. I like jewelry. So they start getting your personality down and what you like. And they go, well, how do we put this into a sneaker to make it be a part of you and who you are and what you like? And that's what started happening with my sneakers. The Ferrari doors, how they open up or whatever, the wings on those shoes to me were like the Ferrari doors, like the wing on that shoe, the penny one. And it was just us sitting in the room, just kind of from the insole to the outer, to the way the laces were going to be, to the tongue, to everything as small as it could be to as large as it could be. And we helped build it together off of just what I really loved in my life and in my lifestyle.
Wow. So you guys developed this shoe, you come up with the final concept, you finally get to see this shoe. And what year did that penny one come out? I don't remember.
In 95.
Okay. So 2 years earlier, you're playing college basketball. And 2 years later, you're holding your own signature shoe, which is bonkers to think about. And then they come to you and they say, all right, now here's our idea for marketing this thing. And I guess, is that when did they have some other process they went through first? Like, I don't remember the transition to like the Lil Penny marketing that came with the shoe. When was that?
The shoes, I wore the Jordans with my number on them. Uh-huh. I wore the Flight Ones. I wore all these different shoes up until right around the 95, 96. And then they transitioned to the sneaker. And then they started talking to me about an alter ego. And it all blended together with the sneaker. Wow. And when they came to me with that, I knew it was going to hit right away because comedy is going to sell. And my brand was hot. So it was a good mix.
Wow. So, and they say, hey, we're going to have Chris Rock do the voice. We're going to have this puppet. We're going to have, like, that had to be a little bit of a surreal moment when you're sitting there and you're like, I'm 24, right? Yeah. Somewhere in there.
It's crazy because initially they said we went after Eddie Murphy, we went after Martin Lawrence, we went after Damon Wayans, we went after all these comedians, and then Chris Rock, who wasn't as well known then, was on the come up. He was the perfect guy because of his voice.
Wow.
And is that right that Michael Jordan, he rocked a pair of pennies? Isn't that correct? Like
Flight Ones in the playoffs against him in 95, he wore the Flight Ones when he first came back. the 94-95 season.
I mean,
I think that's the only time that he's ever worn somebody else's shoes,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, that was pretty dope. And I wasn't really expecting it. And when I saw him with those shoes on, I freaked out. Like, wow, Michael has my shoes. Why didn't he have his own shoes on?
What does it take? What does it take for one of the greatest players in the world, pop culture icon, to freak out? It's when Michael Jordan wears his shoes.
Man, you got to think. I mean, I'm not expecting that. And then we go to Chicago and he has those shoes on. I'm dumbfounded. Like, wow, that's incredible that Michael Jordan wanted to wear my shoe.
And to come full circle, just a couple. What'd you say there, Penny?
I knew that I had his respect at that moment.
And to come full circle, I don't know if you happen to see this yet or if somebody told you, but just a couple of days ago, LeBron said that you're his second favorite player of all time. So it's like your legacy. I mean, we're talking about icons and like what you've built, and this fact that you're a member of pop culture as well as this basketball icon. Like, what does that feel like to know that still carries through to now another great?
Yeah, that's truly amazing and just a blessing from God. The gift that He gave me to play basketball, that it would resonate or translate to a guy like LeBron, who was much younger than me, and that he would take notice of my game and want to emulate or was amazed at things that I did on the court. That's LeBron James, and that humbled me to the point of understanding that what I did have before the injuries and playing at the highest level, that people really appreciated what I was doing out there.
I want to ask you about the end of your career. During your career, the amazing things that you accomplished, and we know the injuries that came with it. But there in your last season, when you got to reunite with Shaq, with the Heat, was there? I can't even imagine what must have been going through your head when you kind of started to feel that it was coming to an end. With the injuries and whatnot. But did that reuniting with Shaq, like, what did that feel like to see that full circle of, this was like my guy, coming up, and we're doing a movie together and he's talking to the GM about, like, this is my dude, I got to have this guy, and you get to spend that last season of your career with Shaq. What was that like?
Yeah, no, that was special for me because it had come full circle. And it was amazing that we were in Miami because Miami and Orlando were rivals. We did not like one another, Orlando and Miami. And it was so funny because when we were with the Magic, every time we would visit the Heat, they would always play the Disney song. Like, these guys are soft. They would play the Disney song. They would piss us off every time. And then now we're on the Heat side, and we're going back and playing against Orlando. So it was funny, but it was still special at the end of the day. Obviously, I wasn't who I once was, and neither was Shaq, but it was still fun just being around him and talking about old times and having laughs.
Penny, if I could ask, before we get into your coaching career and everything, is there a moment, 2 moments, whatever may be, that you look back on your NBA and college career? Is there anything that really stands out to you that maybe when you lay your head down at night, or if you're just driving, or playing golf, and you might just drift into some like past time? Is there anything that really sticks out to you that maybe we don't know about, or something that just really, I don't know?
I think 2 things stick out right away. That's once, I should have never left Orlando. My feelings were hurt, but I should have stayed and toughed it out because that was my team, and I left my team to go play with Jason Kidd, which was a great reason to go because Jason Kidd is a phenomenal player, and I love the Colangelos, and Phoenix was great to me. But I shouldn't have never left Orlando. I was just kind of caught up in my feelings. That was one. Number 2 is I wish we would have finished off the finals against Houston. We didn't get it done. That still haunts me to the day because they had a great team. We were up 20 points in the first 16, 18 points in the first half and kind of relinquished the lead to those guys, and then they went on to sweep us. And obviously we know what happened in that series, but those 2 things stick out the most, in my career when I look back.
Nice. Well, it's obviously a legendary career, and LeBron James, you're his top 2 favorite players, and Michael Jordan's wearing your shoes and all that, and we're huge fans. Everybody's a huge fan of Penny, and as we transition into your coaching career, talking to Cody Toppert, my friend, and your assistant coach, and we were talking. And I've been to it was actually at the UIC game when everything kind of went down. I was down there for a while with Cody watching warm-ups and practices. Talk to us about your development. Talk to us about how you're trying to be not like every other ex-NBA, ex-whatever pro guy. You're not going to put players in their box. You're not going to do things this way, and you're all about development. Talk to us about that, if that's kind of how you want to transition into your college coaching career.
Yeah, for sure. Being playing at the highest level, being the best guard in the world at one point, being first team All-NBA, I learned a lot. I didn't get there by myself. I learned from watching other great players, playing with other great players, against other great players. I learned from great coaches that have been in that I've been in their presence or on their teams, and I kind of accumulated a lot of God gift of understanding the game. And I put all that together and say, you know what? The biggest part about basketball isn't about X's and O's. It's about development, and I'm a big developer. And when you get into X's and O's, I think sometimes kids can become robots, and they don't be as free. So what I said I was going to do when I became a coach, and now on this level it's the same way, was put more time into development and making you the best version of yourself, which will eventually lead to wins. I mean, I think that if I make you the best version of yourself, then everything else will take care of itself, because you want to be more read and react, just react to something and read it versus being told exactly what to do every step of the way. And I put about an hour and a half a day, that much time in practice of that type of work. And it has really paid off big dividends for us, because the kids feel comfortable. The kids feel great. They're working on their games because they have goals and dreams to be on the next level. And then also it helps our college and our team, because they're going to play more free. You know, I demand the defensive end for sure to give the freedom on the offensive end, and the offensive end has to be about togetherness, and the development becomes a part of that. And I'm big on that.
No, it's pretty crazy to me, because you see so many coaches, and we don't have to call any names, but I've been to many, many practices where they don't spend much time on that. And I know what I teach is, hey, you got to be able to read and react. You can't just run plays. And I think that's a huge issue. And I'm sure you probably run into it all the time when you're recruiting. It's like, I need guys that can read and react players, not, hey, I can run this play. Like, well, what do you do when you get this thrown at you? I don't know. Like that,
right.
You can't be a successful basketball player or in life if you're always stuck in that box and you have to just abide by these rules. You got to think for yourself. And I mean, I think that's why you're getting so many players coming to your university, because you're letting these guys have that freedom to create as basketball players.
Yeah, and I was watching a commercial on ESPN. They have a 30 for 30 with Bruce Lee coming out. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Water. That's basically, to me, the freedom of the offense of what I'm trying to let these guys be. And water's going to always find its way through. So you cannot be boxed in. You have to be water. You have to be able to allow kids to be freedom. And kids love that, not being looking over their shoulder or looking at the coach every possession, or if they make a mistake, they get pulled out because they didn't run the play properly. I believe in teaching them how to play before we run plays, and then everything else will figure it out. That's being water.
Wow. I love that.
Do you find yourself, I mean, this is kind of, I don't know, I've never really read this, but it's just in my mind, like you're kind of the new Coach Calipari, where you're getting a lot of one and dones. What do you feel about that, as far as, does it bother you? Or are you like, you know what, if I only have this kid for a year, I'm going to make him the best player and the best human being, and I want him to succeed. I want him to go on after 1 year. I don't want him to have to stay here and feel pressure. Like, what is your mindset behind that?
Well, first of all, Coach Cal did a phenomenal job while he was here in Memphis and then while he's at Kentucky on getting the one and dones. You know, he's definitely was the guy that kind of came up with that. My job as a former NBA player, you know, and a coach now, is to recruit top-level players that want to get to the next level, because I feel like I can teach them how to get there because I played the position. So getting them there, if it takes 1 year, I'm great with that. I'm not a guy that's saying, you know, stay 3-4 years. No, nobody wants to do that nowadays, especially if you have the talent to go make millions of dollars. I'd be crazy to tell a kid who has an opportunity to come back another year. So we'll have enough guys that we can kind of grow from freshman year to senior year, freshman year to junior year, and grow them. But the ones that are special, you teach them everything you know in that 1 year and try to get them prepared from the language, from the understanding, from how to study. And when they get to the next level, they'll be ahead of the game before over all the other rookies that are coming in, because they'll know exactly what's going to happen before they get there.
Benny, I got
go
two
ahead.
things I want to ask you before we let you go. One, coaching your son, and what that has meant to you, and just that feeling. I've got two young daughters. I'll never know the feeling of coaching my daughters in college basketball, because I'm not going to become a coach anytime soon. So, as somebody that has been through this amazing career, I'd love to hear kind of what that feeling is like been for you. And I want to hear you talk about your love for your city. And we know how much you love Memphis, and maybe speak on that a little bit before we go.
Yeah, for sure. It's been a blessing coaching my son, because he wants it so badly, and it's unfortunate when they have to live in our shadow, because people expect for them to be phenomenal because their father was phenomenal. But it's been great just having the bond of being able to separate the two, the coach and then the dad. Early on, I was tougher on him because I wanted him to be a certain way. I wanted him to play a certain way. And then when I got him to where I wanted to get him, then I became more of a father/coach. At first, I think it was all coach. I never really could separate the two because I wanted him to be successful, because he wanted to be successful. But now we have the relationship where we can talk about anything. I can train him. I can coach him, and I'm not hard on him just to be hard on him. If he does something that I don't want him to do, then I'll coach him. And then a part of it of being proud of him, hey, I'm proud of you as a coach and as a father. So I know how to do both. I have another son, Ashton, that's in California, that's 15 years old. That's going to be the next one. I hope to coach him. Well, I can't hope. I'm going to coach him as well. And it's going to be fun because I'll learn from coaching Jaden on how to coach him. And that process, man, as a father-son connection, you have to be able to separate, because they deserve that. They deserve to have the coaching side. And then when you're done, hey, man, I love you. Let's go get something to eat. Let's go to a movie. Let's talk about your personal life, what's going on, and things of that nature. So that's where it is. And then as far as my city, I have a ton of love for the city because they've always been good to me. The city raised me. The city has put me in position to be successful, and everything that I know, I love, I respect about life and how I am and what I represent is because of the city of Memphis. So that's why I came back home when I retired to try to make a difference. And lo and behold, became the coach at Memphis, which I didn't know was going to happen this soon or even happen at all. But to be the coach of Memphis in my own hometown, man, it's a dream come true.
Coach, this has been fantastic. This is like I said at the beginning, this is a total geek out moment for me. But beyond even that, at the end of the conversation here, just being able to hear, things like that with your city and with your son, and the lessons that you learned along the way and whatnot. It, just absolute utmost respect for you and what you do. And we are looking forward to following you guys this season, and looking forward to seeing you again soon when the world gets some sense of normalcy back to it, and we'll figure it out from there. So again, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Having me and allowing me to express myself. And even though I don't know about myself that well, I did get smarter today.
Hey,
well, as long as we could teach you something. I mean, that was really kind of the goal here.
Penny, if I could ask one more question,
Yes.
What would you tell young kids growing up playing ball? What would you tell them to work on? Or what would be something you could tell the youth and all these high school and college players that are listening to this podcast? What would you tell them if you had something to say?
Well, the young kids that are coming up in the game, obviously you could talk about working on ball handling. You can talk about being even, like making your left hand as strong as your right hand, and being able to go both ways. Shooting is difficult. You want to get shots up because it becomes repetitious, and you want to get to the gym. But to me, being in the best condition that you can be in at all times. Trying your best to eat the right foods, because bad foods can make you sluggish and not want to really work. Never get the entitled feel out of you as best you can. Do not ever feel like someone owes you anything. Always feel like you have to earn it. And if you work for it, it's much better than just being given, because you're not going to be given things your entire life. So I would always want to work for it so I can say I've earned it. But as far as my game, I would learn how to move without the ball if I'm going to play basketball. I would love to get into, and I challenge trainers to get kids in and do some drill work, but then also a lot of 3-on-3. a lot of movement without the ball because most kids can't play without the ball. You don't want to be labeled as, you want to be more well-rounded. So with being in the best shape you can be in, you can always work on your ball handling, especially in small, tight spaces where kids get really nervous. Work on that a lot. And then also work on moving without the ball, screening for others, being a good teammate. All the stuff that goes along with being great are those things. Not scoring 30 points, not dunking on somebody, which is all great because everybody's not going to be blessed with the same athleticism. But to really just continue to grind and never settle for where you are. Because I look at Steph Curry, I look at KD, I look at LeBron, I look at Giannis. I look at those guys, and it seems like they're always thriving and striving to be better than what they were. I look at kids now, they want to go through the drill work. They go at about 60% and never really reach their max. That's the one thing that I'm really big on. I call it game speed. When you warm up, you have got to get to a speed that where you're going to use in a game. So when you get in the game, this is the same move, this is the same shot, this is the same release, this is the same timing. You can't go slow in training, and then when you get to the games, speed it up. That's a totally different move. That's a totally different shot. So I'm really big on that because I see a lot of trainers allow kids to just go through the motions. I challenge trainers not to allow kids to go through the motions when they get warmed up. You're not helping the kid when you allow them to go through the motions, no matter what you're working on, unless you're just working on form shooting. So, and to the kids that are talking about going to college, man, pick a school that's going to make you better. Don't pick a coach that's going to make you better. I understand that they have tradition of certain schools, but you can go to the NBA or pretty much anywhere nowadays if you can play. And I wouldn't pick a school because I think that school is going to help me get to the NBA. Because you can go to a school like that, and if the coach doesn't have the knowledge to get you where you want to get to, then you're still behind the eight ball when you get there. And knowledge is key. Knowledge is key. Study a lot. Ask a lot of questions. Don't be too prideful. And, man, just like I said, keep grinding on every single aspect of your game and never settle. Never settle.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, the head coach of the Memphis Tigers, NBA icon, Anfernee Hardaway. Again, my friend, we appreciate you so much for coming on.
No, thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Penny.
Thanks.